I said it before I even realized it was coming out of my mouth. It just spilled out, raw and unapologetic, like some survival instinct kicking in. For a second, the office felt like it froze. My heart was hammering. My hands were slightly shaking, and I could literally hear my own voice echo in the open-plan space. Mike, my boss, froze too, his face shifting from casual amusement to full-on disbelief. I could feel the tension stretch across the room like a rubber band ready to snap. I knew the words were dangerous. I knew this might be the hill I was about to die on. But somehow, in that split second, it didn't matter. I had reached my limit. All the little favors, all the just this one thing requests, the passive-aggressive comments. They had piled up like dirty dishes, and I wasn't cleaning them anymore. Even as the words left my mouth, I felt a weird mix of fear and relief. Fear because I knew Mike didn't like being told no. Relief because for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I was standing up for myself. And somehow, even in that tiny moment of chaos, I felt alive. That I worked at this tiny marketing firm in San Diego. Like 7 people cramped into an open-plan office that smelled a little too much like stale coffee and overenthusiastic air freshener. On paper, it sounded perfect. Casual Fridays, Taco Tuesdays, a place where team bonding sometimes meant awkward ping-pong tournaments or overpriced smoothies. When I first started, I thought I had hit the jackpot. Everyone seemed friendly, jokes were flying, and the boss, Mike, acted like a chill, approachable guy. He'd nod and smile during meetings, toss around motivational quotes, and make you feel like part of a small, tight-knit family. But there's always that but, right? Small offices have a way of showing cracks. The casual vibes were a double-edged sword. The boundaries were fuzzy, and the we're like a family mentality slowly started to feel more like, we'll take advantage of anyone who's too polite to say no. At first, I didn't notice. I told myself, hey, it's chill here. It's not a big deal. At first, it was subtle. Mike would toss casual requests my way. Hey, can you grab me a coffee? Or mind printing this out for me? Things that seemed small and harmless. I shrugged them off, thinking it's fine, no big deal, just helping out a coworker. But then it started happening more often, like multiple times a day, every day. He didn't ask politely anymore. It was more of an expectation. And not just coffee, he'd ask me to schedule his calls, organize his files, even run errands that had absolutely nothing to do with work. At first, I laughed it off, made jokes to myself, and thought maybe I was just overreacting. I told myself it's just part of office culture. Everyone does little favors, it's fine. But deep down, irritation was creeping in, gnawing at me like a little itch I couldn't scratch. Every time he asked, I felt my patience thinning, my jaw tightening, my stomach sinking. I was starting to notice that fun, casual office vibe wasn't so fun when your boss treated you like his personal assistant. At IT happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Taco Tuesday, ironically enough. I was buried in a massive report, fingers flying over the keyboard, caffeine running low, brain on overdrive. Mike leaned over my shoulder, all casual smiles, and said, hey, can you make me a coffee? Something in me snapped. My hands froze mid-typing. I looked up at him, really looked, and said it, loud enough for a few nearby coworkers to hear. I'm not making your coffee. I'm not your assistant. The silence that followed was deafening. Mike's face went through this wild spectrum. Confusion, disbelief, hurt pride, then pure outrage, like I just kicked his dog or insulted his mother. He opened his mouth to speak, then paused, his jaw tight, eyes wide, drama written all over him. Meanwhile, my own body was on fire. Adrenaline surged. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I felt a strange mix of relief. I had finally said no, and pure, raw anger at how ridiculous the situation had become. And underneath it all, a little spike of fear. I knew I had just crossed a line that probably couldn't be uncrossed. For a moment, I half expected someone to laugh it off or call me dramatic, but the tension was real. I could feel it wrapping around me like a vice, tight and suffocating. And I realized right then that the office was never going to feel the same again. After Mike stormed off, face still red, jaw tight, muttering under his breath, I sat there for a few minutes, frozen, staring at my screen like I just survived some kind of minor explosion. At first, All I could feel was this heavy cocktail of shame, hurt, and anger. Did I overreact? Did I just ruin my job over a cup of coffee? My stomach twisted and churned, and for a moment, I wanted to disappear under my desk. But then, slowly, that knot in my chest started to loosen, and I felt it, a tiny spark of pride. I had actually said what I meant. I had drawn a line, a boundary that I hadn't allowed anyone to cross before. That spark grew, creeping into my whole body, turning the fear into this quiet, fierce satisfaction. By the end of the day, I realized something important. I had learned my worth, not in some abstract corporate speak way, but in a very real, raw sense. I didn't need to be anyone's personal assistant, and I didn't need to accept disrespect just because it came with a paycheck. For the first time, I felt like I was standing firmly on my own ground, and that was liberating. Even if the fallout from that day would be messy, I knew I had gained something far more valuable: respect for myself and a clear understanding of my professional boundaries. And honestly, that felt like winning. Later that week, I found myself sitting in a quiet corner of a Starbucks, my own coffee in hand, laptop open but mind wandering. The aroma of roasted beans, the hum of people chatting, and the occasional hiss of the espresso machine. It all felt oddly comforting, like the world had shifted just a little in my favor. I thought back to Mike, to that tense moment, and I realized something. I hadn't just said no to a cup of coffee. I had said yes to myself. Yes to my time, my energy, my dignity. That little act of defiance felt like reclaiming a piece of control I hadn't even realized I'd lost. Sitting there, sipping slowly, I felt a strange, quiet freedom. Not the loud, dramatic kind of freedom, but the subtle, powerful one that comes from knowing you don't have to bend to someone else's whims just to keep the peace. Life doesn't have to be about saying yes to everything, especially when it comes at the cost of who you are. And in that moment, with my warm cup in hand, I understood the lesson clearly. Boundaries aren't just rules, they're declarations of self-respect. And sometimes the smallest rebellion, like refusing to be someone you're not, can feel like the biggest victory.